Welcome back, friends, to another episode of our Grade 7 Math. This unit that we're going to be starting on is going to be surface area. Now, before you go, oh no, here we go. The nice thing about this unit is that it uses formulas that you're already familiar with and combining it together, and also using 3D shapes, which again, you're already familiar with. So you're going to find out that there'll be a couple new formulas, but again, it's nothing that you cannot handle. Now I'm going to start off with a rectangular prism. Now, the process I'm going to show you is the process I want you to use. All right, I'm going to say that again. The process I'm going to be showing you is one that I want you to use. I realize there's another way of figuring out the surface area of these prisms, and that is to figure out the area of each of the individual faces and add them together. And that's what you could do. I know in grade 6, that's one of the ways that they would have showed you. But here in grade 7, I'm going to show you a formula that's going to combine all of that together into a process that's a little bit more seamless. Now I'm going to go through the example first, and then afterwards I'm going to give you the formula. So if you can picture out here, when we're figuring out the surface area, I want you to figure out a rectangular prism and unfold it into a net. And that's what I have here. Now, you know as well as I do that there are two sets of congruent faces on a rectangular prism, and all of those congruent faces are rectangles, which makes life even more easier. Now, if you remember to figure out the area of a rectangle, it's base times height. All right, now again, you're going to multiply it by 2 because you have two faces that are always the same. So I'm going to go through each of these examples. I want you to pay attention, and then afterwards you'll catch on, I promise. So I'm going to start off with my 8 times 3. Now if I go over here, I'm going to find out my faces that are 8 times 3, and I see that they're right here. And as I said, there are two sets of congruent faces. So here they are. So if I can figure out the area of one of those faces, all I have to do is multiply it by 2, and now I have the area of that. And that's what I have here. So in brackets, I'm going to do 8 times 3, so that would be my normal area of that rectangle, but I'm going to multiply it by 2. Now that's only one part. Now you'll see here that we actually put an adding sign because what we're kind of doing, we're going to do this mini formula 3 times, and we're going to add everything together. So that's really important. Don't forget that, and don't turn it into a multiplication either. That's an adding sign. Now we're going to add that portion to another set. So the next rectangle we're going to be doing is an 8 times 5. If I take a look over here, I'm going to put a check mark here. You'll see here I have two faces that are 8 times 5. And again, once I figure out the area of one of those rectangles, all I have to do is multiply it by 2 because I have two that are congruent. And here is the next part in that equation. So that leaves me with only 2 rectangles that are left. I'm going to put my little arrows here. Again, we know to figure out the area of those rectangles is 3 times 5, and I'm going to multiply it by 2. So that's the equation we have here, and afterwards, you're just going to solve it for BEDMAS just like you normally would. Nothing changes, and that's what I've gone through here. Now here, I've adapted a little bit, especially my class. They know that I would tell you guys do 1 operation per line. I'm going to tweak that a little bit just so my work is not yards and yards long. I can do all of this in 1 line. So I'm going to take 2 times, and I'm going to take everything in brackets, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to do 2, and then brackets I'm going to leave 24 because it's 8 times 3. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to do the next part, meaning I'm going to bring down my 2, and I'm actually going to do 8 times 5, which is 40. And then I'm going to add, and then I'm going to do the next part. I'm going to carry down my 2, and then put 15 because that's 3 times 5. And then afterwards, 2 times 24 is 48. 2 times 40 is 80, and 2 times 15 is indeed 30. And then afterwards, you add them all up, and then I have 158 square centimeters, and that's the surface area of that rectangle. Now, I want you to see this because you're going to come across it, especially in the formula. They use the letters L, W, and H. One stands for length, one stands for width, and one stands for height. Now, between you and me, if you get all these numbers mixed up, it's all right. It doesn't really matter because these are all rectangles, and when you actually go and add them all together, your answer will still be right no matter which numbers you put into different parts of the formula, and you'll see what I mean here. So in this slide here, the most important part here is this part that I'm going to be circling. That's the formula I want you to commit to memory. Write it down right now, commit it to memory, because that's the formula you're going to be needing when you do surface area of a rectangular prism. This isn't just a grade 7 thing. They're also going to want to see this in grade 8 as well. So please copy this down. So it starts off with SA, which stands for surface area, and then it's 2 times your length times your height, plus 2 times your length times your width, plus 2 times your height times your width. And that's exactly what we already did. And like I said, I don't want you to feel too intimidated where you have to know which is my height, which is my width, which is my length. It doesn't really matter if some of these numbers are all mixed up because they're all rectangles. Now we're going to go through an example together. Now, if you want to pause the video here and go through and figuring this out, be my guest. I would highly encourage you to do it. That way you can find out that, yes, I actually did it correctly. And if you remember, the very first line always has to be the formula. And so I have that written down for you. Surface area equals 2 times your length plus, 2 times your length times your height plus 2 times your length times your width plus 2 times your height times your width. And it sounds like a mouthful, but again, the more practice you get into it, these parts of those formulas will make a whole lot of sense. All right. So, and again, as I said before, I know that you want to be precise, meaning that you're really, really concerned. You know, the height really, yes, is 8. You're dealing with the width, okay, it is 10, and that length is 15. But again, if you interchange those numbers, it's all right, okay? And I have students that mix it up all the time, and you're completely fine because these are all rectangles. As long as you remember the basics, which is figure out the area of one of those rectangles and multiply it by 2, you will have the same answer. All right. So I have here what you should have in your paper. So if you come across the formula, and again, if your numbers are in different places, that's completely fine. All you're interested in, of course, is the final answer. And the final answer here, by the way, is 700 squared centimeters. So if you go through it here, now you've got to be able to picture this net opened up. So if you need to sketch it on a paper, be my guest. If you can picture it like a 3D model and do that, that's completely fine as well. I also have students that sometimes take different colors and they shade in different parts of the faces. So completely, it's whatever has worked for you up until now. Please continue to do that. So the first part here, you'll see I got 15 times 8. Now, where am I getting it from? It's this side face over here, 15 times 8. So this is one that's there. Now, the other side, which is on, obviously, the other side of my rectangular prism, that's the same face, same shape, and same size, so I can use the same dimensions, and that's why I multiplied it by 2. So I've got that off. Now, 15 times 10 is the next one. And if I go back to my shape, it looks like that's going to be the top and the bottom, which is 15 times 10. And again, we've multiplied it by 2, which leaves 8 times 10 as being my last dimension, and that is the front and the back, if you can picture it. So again, there is the formula, and then you use bed mass to actually answer all the different components so that you get 700 squared centimeters. All right, so there's how you figure out surface area of a rectangular prism. If you need to watch the video again, please by all means do it. My number one advice to you is please take your time. Don't rush through it. And you've heard me say a few times, it's okay if some of these numbers get mixed up, meaning that you put your width where the height is and where the length is. That's all right in the end. All that matters is that you're remembering that you have two faces that are congruent. And as long as you remember that formula for the area of a rectangle. That's what's really important at the end. So good luck, take your time, and don't forget, once you get down to it, your answer is always in squared centimeters. So good luck, and we'll see you on the next video. And the next video, what we're actually going to be working on is volume. And that, thankfully, is a little bit easier than this. So good luck, and we'll see you next time. Bye.